Hello YouTube, Slate Warrior here with another Archetype discussion, and the Archetype that I'm going to be talking about today is Infernoids. And the reason I bring you an Infernoid discussion today is because I was playing some DN rated with my Necros deck and I came across an Infernoid deck for the first time. This was my first time even reading the effects of the cards, but we had a really good duel. It actually went into 3 games. It was a match and it went into game 3. And actually ended up pulling out the victory. But we had a really good discussion. Me and my opponent had a really good discussion in the chat, and we were talking about, you know, the engine he was running with his Inferno deck and like some other engines that he could run. You'll see they kind of have to have like a mill engine, and we were talking about like Necros and Infernoids and how to combat either of the decks and like some tech cards. But it was a really good discussion, and it just piqued my interest in the deck. So I'm going to be talking about each of the monsters today, at least the monsters. I'm not going to be talking about the spells and traps because I didn't actually see any of the spells and traps. He might have been using them, but I just didn't see them. But I read them, and you guys might want to check out. They have a really good quick play spell. I mean, they're on DN or whatever, but if you guys really do want to hear me talk about them, I guess you can comment down in the comment section below telling me that you want me to do a discussion on the spells and traps. But today I'm just going to be going over the monsters. Okay, so they have 3 parts to the card text, each of the monsters. The first part is their summon condition, which is really complicated. Okay, so just pay attention. Their summon condition, right? Some of them can be special summoned from the hand, some of them from the hand or graveyard, and they have to be special summoned by banishing a certain amount of Infernoids from your hand or graveyard, while the combined levels and ranks of all effect monsters you currently control are 8 or less. So it's effect monsters. I don't know, you could kind of find a loophole there by using normal monsters, but it has to be 8 or less, and some of them banish 1, some of them banish 2, some of them banish 3 Infernoid monsters from your hand or graveyard, and they can't be normal summoned or set. Okay, some of them are from the hand, some of them are from the hand and graveyard. The low level ones, the level 2, level 3, and level 4 guy can only be special summoned from the hand by banishing 1. The level 5, 7, and 8 guy can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard by banishing 2, and then the level 10 guy, Nehemoth, he can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard by banishing 3 other Infernoid monsters from your hand and or graveyard. But like I said, the combined level ranks of all effect monsters you control has to be 8 or less. Then also the third part of their card text is another effect that they all share, except for Nehemoth. He just has 2 regular effects, but the ones that are levels 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8, they all have the effect that once per turn during either player's turn, you can tribute 1 monster, then target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. This effect came such in handy against my deck because he would just keep banishing my ritual spells, so I couldn't, you know, when I control no monsters, recycle the ritual spells by banishing it in another Necros monster. So, you know, his Infernoid's effects to tribute a monster, then target a card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it is just really, really good because all of them have that. So, it's a really good thing that you can be using on either player's turn. And then they all have their individual effects, so that's what I'm going to be going over now. Beelzebul, who's a level 2 guy, has an effect that you can simply return a card your opponent controls to the hand. That's really good. Target a card your opponent controls, turn to the hand. Lucifugus and Astaroth, level 3s and 4 guys, they have the effect that Astaroth is the one that pops a spell trap. Lucifugus, level 3 guy, he pops a monster, but neither of them can attack during the turn they activate that effect. So now we're moving up to the level 5 guys. These require 2 banishes, plus they can be summoned from the graveyard. Asmodai has like sort of a Spirit Reaper effect, except he actually has to battle a monster. So when he inflicts battle damage to your opponent by battling a monster, you can send 1 random card from their hand to the graveyard. Then we got Baal. Baal's level 7. His effect is that he can simply banish a card at the end of the battle phase. That's great. At the end of the battle phase, if he attacked an opponent's monster, so only when he's attacking, simply you just banish a card. It doesn't even seem like a target from the way it's worded. You can banish 1 card in the field. I don't know, I'll have to look at some rulings on that, but right now it looks like Spellbook of Fate confirmed. Wow, that's amazing. Next we've got Adramelech. Adramelech is level 8, and his effect is that he can attack again if he destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard. So he's sort of like BLS, right? So he's got 2000 attack, like I said. So, you know, the 2/8 to the face after destroying a monster by battle. And then finally we have Nehemoth. Nehemoth is pretty cool because since he's level 10, I know a lot of people like don't play towers, okay? Like I know that's a thing in the community now, is that towers is bad, but Nehemoth being level 10 isn't out to towers. But I just want, before you guys tell me, oh, towers is bad and stuff, I just want to let you know that Patrick Hoban, like the most revered, maybe, you know, the top 3 revered players, you know, it's him, Billy Brake, and Jeff Jones. Patrick Hoban wrote an article about his ARG winning Burning Abyss deck profile. He played an out, he made an out to towers in case he faced it. So, you know, even he's worried about towers. You know, I'm just letting you know, the fact that they have an out to towers is pretty good because, you know, you're going to be playing this guy anyway. You know, you're not just specifically going to be playing him as an out to towers, but he's got 3000 attack and 3000 defense. So that's some really good stats. He does not have the tribute a monster to banish a card from the graveyard effect, but his effect is when he's special summoned, you can destroy all other monsters in the field. So he's just sort of like a high avatar Garunix, the Fire King. And then this is just the kicker for me. Once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell trap or spell trap effect is activated, you can tribute 1 monster, negate the activation, and if you do, banish it. He stops spells and traps once per turn by tributing a monster. I think that's really cool because he's not just a 3000 level 10 field presence, but also he can stop spells and traps that, you know, could be disrupting things. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about the effects of each of the individual ones. Now I just want to talk about how the archetype kind of matches up against some other things. They have some pretty cool interactions with Necros. Necros, right, are built to combat the extra deck, but Infernoids don't actually special summon from the extra deck, you know, at least they don't have to, since they're all different levels and none of them are tuners, and they have, you know, essentially four main decked boss monsters. The Necros, like Clausulus, Bryanak, and of course, most of all, Unicorn. You know, none of them really affect the Infernoid monsters that much because none of them are special summoned from the extra decks. You know, you can't really disrupt their fields in that way. Also, I think there's like a trend of Konami making decks that don't rely on the extra deck anymore because, you know, last format, you know, with all the decks that were coming out, they were all pretty much decks that relied on the extra deck, either XEs or like a couple synchro decks, right? A lot of rank 4 toolbox decks, right? But now we're getting Infernoids, which special summon from the deck, or I guess the graveyard, but the point is that they're monsters that come from the deck. And then we've got Cleapert, which do pendulum summons, which can be from the extra deck, but it can also be from the hand, and I guess from the deck for using Disco TK. And then we've got Necros, of course, which are ritual archetypes. They special summon from the hand, and I guess the new cards special summon from the graveyard. But you know, the point is they don't go into the extra deck very much. So I think that's really cool that we're getting a whole bunch of decks that are not necessarily as extra deck centric anymore. So yeah, basically, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this archetype because, you know, when I saw it, I saw that they had some really strong effects because even though they are, you know, kind of hard to summon, you have to have setup, you know, they have to have a mill engine. I don't know what you guys have to say about it, so definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below about what you think. But yeah, so we're talking about some different engines to get cards in the graveyard, and basically he was playing what I thought was extremely interesting. He was running so Tour Guide and Skarm, and then like Dante. So what he'd do is he'd go Tour Guide and Skarm, make a Dante, and then he could use this effect to start milling to get monsters into the graveyard for his Infernoid summons, and then later he could tribute the Dante to banish a card in my graveyard, and then he can recycle the Skarm with the Dante's effect. So I thought that was a really good idea, even though when we were talking he said that he's probably going to take that out. I'm not exactly sure why, because he said that basically that's like, it takes 2 cards to make a Dante, but he said he was going to replace it with Card Trooper because Card Trooper is just 1 card, you can normal summon it, activate its effect, and start milling cards, plus he can be a 1900 repeater. But I don't know, I thought the Dante idea was pretty cool. I mentioned to him Lightsworn, of course, because that's like one of the best mill engines ever, especially with the spells that they have right now, you know, the draw spell and the search spell. But you know, he said that he was going to stick with the Dante engine, which, like I said, really was cool. I thought it was cool because he can get the plus off of Dante's recycling as well as using it to be a 2/5 body for attacking if he can. So yeah, and the last thing that I want to say before I finish this video is that this deck can definitely use Burial from a different dimension. This deck is going to be a prime example of a deck that can use Burial from a different dimension. That card's been at 1 for so long, so maybe when this deck comes out that it'll go up to 2 to promote it. I don't know. I don't really think Burial needs to be at 1 right now. I think that it could be at 3 right now, honestly, because I don't know what use it, like zombies. I don't know, zombies aren't really that big of a deal right now. Hamazuki and Plague are at 3 and they're not doing anything. So I think Burial could go to 3 now, but specifically for Infernoids, maybe they could move it up then to promote them because they'll have to banish cards to summon themselves, so you're going to be losing a lot of your Infernoids, oh my god, I cannot say that right, Infernoids really fast, so he was main decking that, so I think this card has not seen any play recently, but this deck probably has to use it, so I think it's really cool that we're seeing Burial from a different dimension again with this deck Infernoids. Okay, YouTube, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos, like this video if you enjoyed it, favorite it if you liked it that much, and comment or I won't know that you viewed, and I will see you later, YouTube.